Welcome to At the Driving Instructors. Please like and follow us or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Here we're going to look at one of the questions in the theory test. This is in the Alertness category. So question 1 of 22 possible questions in this category is, what should you do when you approach this bridge? A. Move to the right. B. Keep to 30 mile an hour. C. Slow down. Or D. Change gear. You could see the sign in the picture said oncoming vehicles in the middle of the road. So the answer A, moving to the right, might be helpful because you might be able to see better, but because there are oncoming vehicles in the middle of the road, that might not be the best idea. B, keeping to 30 miles an hour, there's no way that we could say that 30 miles an hour would definitely be safe, so that's not the answer because you might have to stop if someone's coming over the bridge. D, changing gear, is a good idea because that would be what you would do when you slow down. But slowing down is what the real answer is. So C, slow down, is definitely the answer. Changing gear, D, might be something you'll also do when you slow down. It depends what gear you're in and how much you've had to slow down. Subscribe to At the Driving Instructors for more questions. Question 2 is, why do you need to turn your headlights on when it first gets dark? A, so others can see you more easily. B, so that you blend in with other drivers. C, to make your dials easier to see. Or D, because the street lamps are lit. Let's go through the answers. So others can see you more easily, A. That is the most valid point out of all of those answers. So that's the reason to turn your headlights on, so that you blend in with other drivers. It is nothing to do with it. That doesn't make sense. To make your dials easier to see. Yes, that would happen. That would be a symptom of having your lights on. You would be able to see your dials more easily. And when the street lights are lit, you definitely should have your lights on because that means it's dark. But blending in with other drivers isn't a good enough reason. So the reason and the answer is definitely A, so that others can see you more easily. Question 3. Why could objects hanging from your interior mirror be a hazard? So A, your sun visor might get tangled. B, your radio reception might be affected. C, your view could be obstructed. Or D, your windscreen might mist up more easily. Well, your sun visor getting tangled, yes, I suppose it's a possibility, but that's not the answer. Your sun visor's quite far away from your rear view mirror or your interior mirror. Your radio reception getting affected, that's not going to be a hazard. And again, I don't think something dangling, unless it's hugely magnetic, would do that. Your windscreen misting up more easily, again, unless it's something wet or for some bizarre reason, I don't see why that would happen. So the answer is definitely C, your view could be obstructed. So something dangling might cause your view to be obstructed. Answer is C. Question 4 is, when may you use a handheld mobile phone whilst driving a car? Let's go through the answers in turn. So A, when receiving a call. No, this can't be the answer. It's not talking about using a hands-free, it's talking about using a handheld mobile phone, so that's a no. B, when driving less than 30 miles an hour. No, can't be that, doesn't make any difference. C, when your car has automatic transmission. No, can't be that. So it must be D, when you've parked safely. So the correct answer is D, when you've parked safely. You can't use a handheld mobile phone while you're driving at all. Question 5 is, when moving off from behind a parked car, what should you do? So A, use exterior mirrors only. Well, no, this wouldn't be safe because you wouldn't know what's in your blind spots. B, look around before moving off. Yeah, that seems like a good idea. C, give a signal after moving off. Why would you signal after you've moved? And also, you might not need a signal if nobody's around to signal to. And D, look around after moving off. Well, that's no good because if you look around after you've moved off, you might have missed something. So the answer is definitely B. Look around before moving off. Question 6 is what should you do before making a U-turn? So the answer A is check road markings to see that U-turns are permitted. Well, that's a good thing to do if you're going to make a normal U-turn, but remember, you might have to make a U-turn because there's been an accident up ahead or somebody's telling you you've got to turn around, like a traffic officer. So therefore, it would make no difference. So it's not answer A. Give an arm signal as well as using your indicators. That may be useful if your indicator wasn't working or if you felt that somebody didn't understand what your indicator was saying, but that's not the answer. Selecting a higher gear than normal is D. Well, you definitely wouldn't do that because you're trying to turn around, so it's going to be tighter. So if anything, you need a lower gear. So the correct answer is C. Look over your shoulder for a final check. So C, look over your shoulder for a final check because you need to check that your blind spot is definitely clear. Question 7 is what's likely to happen if you use a hands-free phone whilst driving? A, it will reduce your view. Well, that could be correct if you've attached your hands-free on your windscreen where it would reduce your view, but that's not the answer. B, it will divert your attention. That's definitely the answer. Even though it's hands-free, speaking to somebody is still going to divert your attention away from the road. So therefore C, it will increase your concentration. Definitely not. While you're thinking about talking to somebody, you're definitely not going to increase your concentration, and it certainly won't, D, improve your safety. So is it safer than having a handheld mobile? Yes, but having a handheld mobile is illegal. So talking on a hands-free doesn't improve your safety, it diverts your attention. So the answer is B, it will divert your attention. Question 8 is how can you make sure the sat-nav or the satellite navigation doesn't distract you whilst you're driving? So answer A is turn it off while you're driving in built-up areas. Well, you'd need to pull over to turn it off, and also, how would you know where you're going? So I feel like that would distract you. B is choose a voice you find calming. It's a good idea, but I don't think it's going to stop from distracting you. C is only set the destination when you are lost. I think by the time you've got yourself lost, you're going to be very distracted and very frustrated. So the answer is D, set it before starting your journey. That way, you can make sure that you've got it plugged in, that it's working, it's got enough charge, and you can have a look at the map of where you're going and make sure it's in a safe place on your windscreen or on your dash. So the answer is definitely D, set it up before starting your journey. Question 9 is when do windscreen pillars cause a serious obstruction to your view? So A is when you're on a dual carriageway and B is when you're driving on a motorway. Well, neither of these are massively affected by windscreen pillars because you're normally going in a fairly straight line. Nor would it be C when you're approaching a one-way street. The fact that you're approaching a one-way street has nothing to do with windscreen pillars. So the answer is D, when you're approaching bends and junctions. So when you're going round a bend and you're not straight on, they really affect the windscreen pillars really affect the ability to be able to see round the bend, and at junctions they can often block what you can see coming on the main road when you're at the junction, so things can appear to be in your windscreen pillar. So that's the answer, D, when approaching bends and junctions. Question 10 is what should you do if you start to feel sleepy on a long motorway journey? A, play loud music. Well, this isn't a bad idea. Neither would be taking the window down, but it's not the answer. B, stop on the hard shoulder to rest. No, you must never stop on the hard shoulder unless you've broken down. Very dangerous place to stop. So C is the correct answer. Leave the motorway and stop in a safe place. D, drive faster to complete the journey sooner is just silly. It's never safer to drive faster than what's safe to do so, to try to get to a journey quicker so that you can go to sleep. As I say, playing loud music and taking the window down would be a good idea until you could find that place to pull off and stop. But pulling off the motorway and finding somewhere to stop is definitely the right answer. Question 11 is, when you are turning right onto a dual carriageway, what should you do before emerging? So answer A is stop, apply the parking brake and select a low gear. Well, that can't be the correct answer because in the question they've given you no idea about what you can see. So if you can see really, really clearly and it's an incredibly open junction onto the dual carriageway and it's completely clear, it would be really dangerous to suddenly stop. So that's not the answer. B is position your vehicle well to the left-hand side of the road. Well, if you're turning right, that's going to be very misleading. So again, that's not the answer. C is check the central reservation is wide enough for your vehicle. I think that's the answer because if you need to stop in the middle when you're joining a dual carriageway, you need to make sure that there's room. So if by the time you've got across the first side of the carriageway, the situation has changed, you need enough room in the central reservation for you to stop it with your vehicle to make sure that it's wide enough. So the answer is definitely C, check the central reservation is wide enough for your vehicle. D, make sure that you leave enough room for a vehicle behind. That's neither here nor there because one, what the vehicle behind you is doing is up to him. But two, who knows what size the vehicle behind you is? The vehicle behind you could be a motorbike. The vehicle behind you could be an HGV. So it's not giving you any parameters on that. So the answer is definitely C. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and like and follow us on TikTok. Join us next time for more questions. We'll do 12 to 22 in the alertness category next.